So Joe, one group of people you didn't mention are philanthropists.
Is what, I'm sorry?
Philanthropy.
Well, philanthropy,
Right?
yes, absolutely.
Right? I mean, as you know, now you look at the magazines, I think in Time, in Economist, there's a lot of discussion about private dollars, people coming in. The Larry Ellisons of the world, who's put in 450 million of his own money. Peter Thiel of Joon, who started a prize. So Joon, tell us about your perspective. You're an investor. You also understand medicine physiology. And why would you want to put millions of dollars of your own money into a prize where, in fact, there's a lot of research already going on, and is that going to make a difference?
Well, to Joe's point, this is about individual participation, and all of us can contribute from whatever seat we're sitting in. In my own purview, I get to see lots of different things, both on the academic side and the business side. And I think there's so many exciting ideas out there. I want to figure out how do I pull these ideas together and accelerate them in the action, because this is a race against time for all of us, to your point. And given the fact that I've got only 6 minutes, this race against time, I actually wrote down some notes here. What I love about prizes is that it harkens back to my original training, which is in evolutionary biology. There's a diversity of options, and there's competition, there's selection. That's how nature innovates, so why not innovate ideas in aging and solutions through the exact process? You mentioned earlier that all of us on the stage have made a bet. So the bet I made is on the age-old debate about whether or not senescence is a trait, the teleologic origins of senescence. So between Weissman's view that senescence increases evolutionary capacity and Medawar counter-argument that it can't be because senescence occurs after reproduction, I chose to wager on Weissman, in part because some of the things in Medawar's argument doesn't make sense to me. For instance, men retain their reproductive capacity long into senescence. Furthermore, why hasn't there been runaway selection for deferral of female reproductive senescence? But I wagered on Weissman's hypothesis for a more pragmatic reason. As an investor, I like lines of thinking that are underpriced by the market. Thinking differently about the ultimate cause of senescence makes you think differently about the proximate causes. If aging is a trait, it might be codified. If it's a code, it can be edited and hacked. That's a possibility that cancer cells have foreshadowed for us because cancer cells are able to edit out their own senescence. So Weissman basically helped me think differently about evolution and evolutionary capacity. And this distinction helped me think differently about health as well. What if we viewed health through the lens of homeostatic capacity instead of homeostasis? Homeostatic capacity is the system's ability to self-stabilize in response to stressors. It's nature's greatest endowment, and it operates at all levels of biology. Yet because homeostatic capacity is so pervasively effective when we're young, we have no awareness that we have it until we start losing it in the middle of life. Now, when we were young, we didn't feel healthy. We felt nothing. And at my age, I feel something. I talk to my parents, and they feel everything. So as an investor, I take the long view. Until the modern era, most people succumbed before reaching midlife, typically due to stressors such as trauma and infection that overwhelmed their native homeostatic capacity, but profound infectious disease and surgical innovations of the pre-1950 era, let's just call this healthcare 1.0, helped push average survivorship well past reproductive senescence. Now, after midlife, recovery from stressors, a late night, a hangover, an injury, suddenly take a lot longer. Our tolerance for temperature, altitude, light, and other contextual changes decline. Roller coasters suddenly leave us discombobulated. Now consider changes we can't feel. During our youth, when our blood pressure or sugars rise, our homeostatic capacity puts it back down. But as we age, those levels no longer self-tune. So from a systems thinking perspective, perhaps these disparate features of aging are nothing more than epiphenomenon of a common underlying mechanism, the erosion of homeostatic capacity that robs us of our ability to contend with not only the background entropy, but stochastic stressors as well. Now, the prevailing paradigm of healthcare 2.0, which is what we're in today, is to center these out of balance positions, and to extend an earlier analogy, we're trying to prop up the Weeble that's leaning. In other words, give antihypertensives for hypertension. Essentially, we're using an acute disease framework for a chronic disease. Restoring homeostasis without restoring homeostatic capacity fails to address the latter's role in senescence. So we're helping people live longer, but our approach resembles a game of whack-a-mole, limited by two fatal flaws. Number one, helping people live longer through healthcare innovations without solving senescence leads to a vicious cycle of cost escalation. The second fatal flaw is everyone dies. So we need a radically new model. For healthcare 3.0, could optimizing homeostatic capacity instead of homeostasis enable sustained health and avert senescence? Can we put healthcare system back in the body? In other words, will being healthy never get old? Homeostatic capacity gives us proximal investable targets for the ultimate goal of increasing senescence. Increasing health span, sorry. We need more dynamic diagnostics that assess homeostatic capacity, such as cardiac stress tests, orthostatics, HRV, our voice, other things we heard about today, that offer much better temporal resolution and contextual capabilities. We also need more therapies that increase dynamic range in our bodies, the way exercise and vaccines do. Perhaps pharmaceuticals should be considered for their paradoxical effect. Can you imagine giving pro-blood pressure drugs, agonists, as antihypertensives? That's what essentially exercise is. But most importantly, we got to look for underlying causes of system-wide decline in homeostatic capacity. Is it due to loss of central clocks or control systems? Is it due to loss of cellular power, such that it undermines our ability to respond to stimuli? These are the kind of questions we hope to answer through a series of prizes at the Palo Alto Prize. Now, if we restore homeostatic capacity, the healthcare industry will contract dramatically. The current feed-forward relationship between health innovation and future consumption would finally decouple, which would be nice. People would be able to persist at low annual mortality rates currently enjoyed by young people, in which case the median lifespan will telescope dramatically to the number of years that were once imaginable. And then at that point, human capacity would finally be unleashed. So I'd like to leave you with a final thought. Just 6 decades after the Wright brothers launched the aviation age, President Kennedy pronounced the moonshot. Amazingly, just 8 years later, the mission was accomplished. Now, 6 decades after Watson and Crick discovered the code of life, let's join Dr. Zhao, President Zhao, on another historic mission and solve aging.
Thank you.